Russian energy giant Gazprom has said that it will once again drastically cut gas supplies to the EU through its main pipeline, Nord Stream 1, due to maintenance work. To this, the EU has now said that it must act soon to reduce its reliance on Russian gas. The development comes as fears of an acute gas crunch continue to grip Europe. Listen in.
We know that there is no technical reason to do so. This is a politically motivated step, and we have to be ready for that. And exactly for that reason, the preemptive reduction of our gas demand is a wise strategy.
Gazprom, in an official statement on Monday, said that it is halting the operation of one of the last two operating turbines in Nord Stream 1. Due to some technical reasons, the gas supplies will be halted from Wednesday. It will cut the gas deliveries to 33 million cubic meters a day. The full capacity of the pipeline is more than 160 million cubic meters, and with this, the supplies through Nord Stream 1 pipeline would now drop to just 20% of their capacity. Germany, meanwhile, has said that it is closely monitoring the situation and that there is no technical reason, as stated by Russia, that can justify this suspension of supplies. The Nord Stream 1 that pumps gas from Russia to Germany has been running well below its capacity for weeks now. It was completely shut for a 10-day maintenance break earlier this month. Although the supply was resumed after the break, the sudden halt sparked fears that Russia might be planning to close this crucial pipeline completely. And for more analysis about this news development, joining us now on this broadcast is our correspondent Rosie Burchard from Brussels, and we're also joined by our correspondent Trent Murray from Berlin. I welcome both of you to WION World is One. Rosie, starting with you, Gazprom has now said it will once again drastically cut the gas supplies to the EU. Tell us about what the EU is saying about this. Is the bloc worried?
The bloc is worried, and the bloc accuses Moscow quite explicitly of using energy as a weapon. They say Russia is trying to blackmail the European Union, trying to divide the European Union and exert some power over the European Union, presumably to try and convince the EU to weaken sanctions that it imposed on Russia over this war in Ukraine. Now, with that in mind, the European Commission has proposed that all EU member states cut their gas consumption by 15% right through until next spring to try and save gas ahead of the winter, the heating season in Europe, which comes in a few months' time, in order to make sure that Russia doesn't have a strong hand here and the EU is more self-sufficient. But it's proven to be a rather unpopular plan among EU member states because different countries here in the European Union have different levels of reliance on Moscow. EU energy ministers are meeting right here in this building as we speak. They're likely to agree on a compromise version of those plans, so a cut in some of their energy consumption, but with specific exemptions and derogations, particularly for countries which aren't reliant on Moscow, and say it's unfair that they should have to make a change and that it would be ineffective in any case. So the European Commission urging countries to stick together, saying they must stay united to try and weaken Russia's hand here.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Rosie. Stay with us on this broadcast. Trent, I want to come to you now. You're joining us from Berlin. Tell us about Germany's statement in all of this. Germany says it is monitoring the situation, and it says that there is no technical reason, as stated by Russia, that can justify this fresh suspension of supplies. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, the Russians are saying that this shutdown is happening because of technical reasons. But I have to tell you, officials here in Berlin just do not buy that. They say this is not technical, this is political. Of course, it's worth remembering that pipeline lands here in Germany. The German side of all of this can get very good technical readings of what exactly is happening within that infrastructure. And they say all of their assessments show there is simply nothing wrong with the pipeline. And the fact that it is now going to be powered down to 20% is, again, as Rosie said, designed to try and put pressure on Germany, of course, the EU's biggest economy. And in fact, I think we can almost start to see some real anger breaking through in all of this. Robert Habeck, who is the energy minister in that meeting in Brussels, Rosie was talking about, he is also the vice chancellor here, and he has said in media overnight that he's not surprised that this has happened. It is just annoying that Gazprom keep coming up with new reasons. In fact, he called them farcical stories that Moscow is coming up with regarding the turbines, which are just not true. And then he went on to say they don't have the guts just to say we are in a trade war with you guys. In other words, saying energy is being used as a weapon. Instead, they are just coming up with these technical readings. I mean, you only have to have a look very quickly at the chronology of the past month. Pre-July 11th, gas output was at 40%. July 11th, it was put down to 0% for that 10 days of maintenance you discussed. July 21, back up to 40%. We're now down to 20%. Berlin says all that fiddling with the numbers is all very, very deliberate, again, designed to try and scare Germany ahead of the winter.
Right, Trent. I want to take this next question from both of you. Rosie, coming to you first. Does Europe have a contingency plan in place ahead of the winter months in particular as gas supplies hit rock bottom?
Priyanka, this is precisely what they are trying to agree on here, a contingency plan to make sure they can keep the lights and, of course, the heating on here in Europe this winter. Now, this plan has three prongs. First of all, trying to find replacements for Russian gas. So the European Commission, the bloc's executive, has been going out in the world signing new gas supply deals with countries including Israel, Egypt, Norway, the United States. But of course, that's not enough to plug this big gap. The EU was dependent on Russia for 40% of its gas imports prior to this war. Now, on the second front, they are trying to ramp up renewable energy because that's a type of energy that can really be produced here within the European Union rather than imported like oil and gas. And thirdly, this demand reduction. They are trying to radically reduce the amount of gas that is consumed here in Europe so they can fill up the gas reserves to make it through this winter. Now, I spoke to Robert Habeck, the German Vice-Chancellor, at this meeting. He said, despite the fact that there are some compromises foreseen, he believes this will be enough to make it through Europe's winter. However, I also spoke to Ireland's Minister, Eamon Ryan, and he said that the 15% gas cut, which is proposed on the table, might not be enough, particularly with these latest announcements from Russia regarding the cuts in supplies via Nord Stream 1.
Right, thanks for that, Rosie. Trent, taking the final question from you now. Europe says it must act now to reduce its reliance on Russian gas. How does it propose to do so?
Well, there are three main areas to watch out for, at least here in Germany. Number one is conserving energy right now so that gas isn't used for electricity generation and is instead sent to storage. For that reason, they are asking people to do things like take shorter showers or do their laundry in cold water to preserve energy. Number two, in the short term, it is very difficult to get electricity elsewhere, as Rosie said, and so what we're seeing is old coal-fired power plants turned back on here in Germany in order to try and make sure the grid can be stabilised over the winter. And then number three, perhaps most controversially, is potential rationing of gas over the winter. Questions about who will get the gas if there is a shortage. The government says households will be prioritised, but of course that then leaves large swathes of the German economy open to major disruption. A number of the big factories saying if they are forced to power down to conserve energy over the winter, that could have a really big economic impact. In fact, it risks putting Germany into a recession.
Right, Trent and Rosie, thank you so much for all those inputs and thanks for joining us at this hour on WION World is One. WION World is One is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.